out here at the
Welcome in, everybody. I'm Jen Frederick. This is Philadelphia Live. There is quite a bit happening at this hour, and we're showing you some of the images live. We're also waiting for the president. He is expected to go from Marine One to Air Force One. He is on the schedule to visit Kentucky today. We're going to talk a little bit about that. As a reminder, we're here till 2, and we are happy you are as well. So what's going on in these boxes? All right, right next to me, that is the House. The House is open. I'm sorry, Senate. Senate is open, House is on recess, and they're talking about a number of issues. You know, Wednesday is always a busy day because typically the members of the Senate go back to their home districts on Thursday after work. Below there, that is a BlackRock U.S. Infrastructure Summit. The secretary, many secretaries are there, including the Secretary of Transportation. What's interesting, they're talking about the infrastructure in the United States, how AI and certain new technologies can help support it. We're going to listen in there in just a few minutes. And then the stock market. They gave us a little bit of sunshine yesterday, not the case today. As you see it right there, that is a live picture of the New York Stock Exchange. We do have Timothy Chubb that's going to join us a little bit more in this hour. You probably have seen your electricity bills are up. You probably know it costs more to go to the grocery store. We're going to talk about all those things that mean so much to all of us between now and 2 o'clock. So we are going to go to Washington. Again, this is a summit, BlackRock U.S. Infrastructure Summit. It's what it's being called. They're partnering with members of government to see what they can do. We're going to listen in.
First on the technology front. I mean, I was so incredibly impressed by how you're spending the $12.5 billion. It's $12.5 billion, right? $12.5 billion, and how quickly you're doing it. It's super impressive. This is critically important. The technology is critically important. But it's more than just technology, isn't it? It's making sure that the taxiways and the runways are paved too, because we get delayed because of the physical nature of some of our airports. So we can't emphasize the importance of this enough, because cargo is an important part of the overall ecosystem of the world.
On that, Carol's right. It's taxiways, it's runways, it's airports, it's towers, it's TRACONs, it's centers. I mean, we have some really old assets that have to be refreshed. And it's a lot of money. And again, it sits in everyone's congressional district. And by the way, you know, Congress gives me the money to do these things. But this is a place, and airports again generate good revenue, and it's been a great partnership with the private sector. But I think there's opportunities in other spaces as well, because it's going to take tens of billions of dollars to rebuild what used to be, you know, brand new in the 50s and 60s and early 70s to something that has become just very antiquated, old, and in some places it's becoming a hazard.
Yeah, and I think if you look at any transport network, it's as strong as its weakest link.
Yes.
So just to focus on one element and not the whole element, risk being dragged down by the area that hasn't been focused on. Can we now look to the future and think about AI and innovation? And how is innovation and technology changing transport and logistics and its requirements? And if I could ask this question to both of you, maybe starting with you, Secretary Duffy. We see so many areas, autonomous vehicles, across trucking, last mile delivery, and even air mobility. They have the potential to reshape how people and goods move. So where do you see the most practical and near-term applications of autonomy in transportation and logistics? And what are the barriers that you're focusing on to address to enable to release these benefits?
Yeah, so first off, with AI, great tools. We have pushed in our department to use those tools over the last 6 months. We're a little behind, I think, the rest of industry, but we are ahead of the rest of government. So not great, but if we're competitive, I'm beating the other secretaries. Maybe not war. Maybe war might get me, but so I think the way people and products move is going to radically change. And there was a time that maybe folks saw the DOT as a sleepy place where we wear our orange vests and you have the slow sign and the stop sign, and we got. This is, I think, one of the most exciting spaces outside of AI. So first off, we have to use.
All right, so as we listen to Secretary Duffy talk about what he can do with the money he's been given by Congress, we are also looking at Air Force One. That is the plane that will transport President Trump to Kentucky. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what you are looking at. That's going to be happening. We'll be dipping in on both. Back to Secretary Duffy.
If we move too fast with our rules and regulation, and we extend the runway too far, and my puns with transportation, and bad things happen, it's going to set the industry back, whether it's years or a decade. And if I go too slow, America is going to fall behind the rest of the world, number one, or our innovators are going to leave the U.S. And so what we're trying to do is have a regulatory regime that matches where the industry is at. So we came out this week with our pilot program for eVTOLs. Now, we don't have a fleet of hundreds of these, but our companies have a couple vehicles each, and we're going to be able to test these vehicles in different parts of the country, whether it's people, cargo, or first responders, medicine. And what we need is just data off of this. But that's going to radically change the way products and people move. I mean, we have our suburbs that work from our highway system, but you might have a whole different set of people who can live even further out from the suburbs and come in on an eVTOL. We might be able to, manage what happens in Southeast Florida. Anyone from Florida, there's so much growth there. The congestion that's happened is profound. So that's going to be fantastic. I think on the congestion front, autonomy is going to help us alleviate some of that congestion. The vehicles will, I think, perform better than humans, and how the more we have, the better that's going to be. We lose 40,000 people roughly a year, and it used to be maybe drugs or alcohol, but our phones and the distracted driving is costing so many lives. This is, I think, going to save a lot of lives, autonomous vehicles. I think we should talk about transit, just if I could take 1 second on that. You mentioned transit. I'm a Republican, and I love transit because our cities don't work without transit, right? New York, Chicago, Atlanta, D.C., name your city. If you don't have a well-functioning transit system, your city doesn't work. Everyone can't drive in. I don't want to force people to take a train or a bus, but they should have that option. And I think autonomous vehicles are going to change the old bus network. I think it's going to be cheaper to allow one of our robo-taxis, one of our autonomous taxis, to pick you up at your residence or wherever your pickup point is and bring you directly to your drop-off point. And we're going to be able to do that cheaper as a system than buying massive buses. So you don't have to walk 3 blocks to the bus station, switch buses, and then walk 4 blocks to your destination. Autonomous vehicles are going to, I think, radically change that. And one other thing, I do think in America we should expect that we have a transit system that's honorable and respectable, and you should be able to have your 14-year-old daughter get on a metro train in New York City at 7 o'clock at night and feel safe. And there's no way in hell I would ever put my daughter on the MTA in New York. They should be safer, less crime, they should be cleaner, and that takes a partnership between us and in transit on the federal side, but also I need state partners to demand better. We should ask for more. These are. I mean, if someone doesn't want to take transit, it might not be that it's not the best solution. It might be that it's not the safest solution, or these should not be homeless shelters, right? We should deal with the homeless, but it shouldn't be our train stations or our subway stations. We should deal with homelessness, but that's not the answer. We need more people to be able to ride these systems and do it in a way that is safe and clean and enjoyable. But again, this is political will, but there's a lot of technology that's going to provide solutions to some big problems that we face, and I think help resolve the the congestion. And by the way, this is oftentimes going to be cheaper than if I've got to do a massive project that's going to take me 10 years to expand, name your freeway by 4 lanes.
Right.
This can be a lot more cost effective and move far more people.
Thank you. Carol.
Well, first of all, I couldn't agree more with that. I'm so excited about your passion for improving transit. It's so important. You know, for us, autonomy and AI is really what we're all about. You think we're a logistics company, in many ways we're a tech company. Our first focus is automating the inside of our buildings. So 67% of our sort, we have 1,000 buildings in the United States, 67% of our sort is automated. 68 of the sort will be automated by the end of the year. We're putting automatic labeling, automatic bagging, robotic small sort induction, and we use robots to unload and load the trailers that come into our buildings. So that's a real area of focus for us. Inside the buildings, we have autonomy. We have autonomous vehicles that bring irregular packages, the big packages, bring those irregular packages throughout the building. No person is driving that. We have autonomous tugs in the yard that will bring a trailer to a door. Outside of the buildings, we're ready to go with autonomous feeder trucks, but we need a little help from interstate commerce. So if we get a little help from interstate commerce, we're ready to go. But for our package cars, candidly, while the technology is there, this is not an area of focus for us because our drivers are our brand. And when they arrive at your business or at your home, there's a personal connection that's made with that driver. So we're not spending any time thinking about autonomy for our package cars, but on the feeder absolutely. And we've got a whole bunch of other cool things going on from a technology perspective that actually I think might help on the congestion side. So we're making our buildings and our packages and our cars smart through RFID technology, which allows us to move from a scanning to a sensing network. This is going to reduce time that we have on our hands, which will then hopefully help on the congestion side.
So I go to the UPS store all the time. I'm more of a rural guy, and there are UPS stores everywhere. I was telling Carol this yesterday. And just, if you've ever been to one, and the kind of things that are dropped off at the stores and how you can actually manage all the different products, packages, returns that come in. She tried to explain it to me yesterday. I'm like, my eyes glossed over. But it was pretty remarkable what UPS does.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your business. And the stores are really important to us. 13% of all the volume in our network starts at a UPS store.
Yeah,
how about that?
That's great.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having the store.
Thank you all.
If you haven't been to one, go check it out. It's great.
Well, technology is going to make a massive impact on both the optimal use of existing infrastructure.
It sure is.
And real benefits in terms of cost affordability on the one hand, but also choice and service levels, quality, safety, security. So it's actually very exciting, and I hope you agree this is an exciting panel. Just because we're in the last 2-3 minutes, if I could ask you an unfair question. If there was one key priority, something you'd really like to see happen in US transport infrastructure over the next 3 or 4 years, what would that be?
Before I answer that, can I make one pitch? What's been unique in the little over a month that I've been at DOT, and I think we've seen this in government, there has been more willingness from the private sector to actually engage their government. And I think it's been a beautiful thing. People who have said, America has been good to me. I'm willing to give some of my expertise back to government. You don't have to, be hired in. There's a number of different ways we can do it, and you don't even have to be official. It can just be advice. But if you're willing to help out your government wants your help. And so sometimes we like to kick our government, which I've done my share of that. It's been frustrating. But if you're willing to say, hey, I've got great ideas that could help you do your job better, please share them. Reach out. Be part of the solution, because you have a team that's there right now that are looking for answers, looking for the best ideas on how to spend money well, how to drive our dollars further, how to partner with outside dollars. But to answer your question, I have the Merchant Marine Academy. We're following mariners a little bit more closely over the last 10 days. The best mariners come out of Kings Point. It's a U.S. academy. This is it's been run down, mold. Hot water doesn't work. They didn't have hot water for 4 months. Their dishwasher breaks. So they eat off of paper plates. And these are the most remarkable young men and women. And there's no way in hell a U.S. Academy should treat its midshipmen like this. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to get money from the Congress. That's going to be fixed. I want less semis killing people on our roadways. I want safe, well-qualified drivers driving on our roadways. I want our project delivery to move much faster at a way better price. I want cleaner transit. I want a safe air traffic control system that's modern, brand new, and beautiful. What else could I? There's a lot of stuff I want to do, but and we're trying to do all those things. And it's a big take, but it's partners and ideas that are helping us make that happen. So I want to do it all.
Excellent. That's a good answer to what's your single most. Carol, a final word from
Michael,
you.
he's a hard guy.
I think for me, this is an infrastructure conference, and we've just talked about the incredible opportunities that we have to invest in infrastructure here in our country, which is good for all of us. We as Americans need to break the paradigm about four-year colleges, and we need to get kids into trade schools. We in the private sector need to support that. I certainly support that. We have to own this because these jobs are great. I have drivers working for me who do not have college educations, who make $170,000 a year. That's a damn good job, and we need to encourage more kids to get into the trades, to come support this amazing opportunity we have to really make America great again.
I love that. And by the way, we need autonomy in road, building roads and autonomous equipment can revolutionize how fast we go and how much we spend. So every space hits technology, I think, in transportation.
Well, thank you both very much. And it's very encouraging, I think, to hear that people have a role.
So again, we're listening in on this basically summit where the Secretary of Transportation is working with BlackRock. BlackRock has donated a ton of money to the U.S. government, and he says he intends to use it to help infrastructure get better, get smarter, be more efficient. So this is some video from that event. The other thing we have the president's plane, right? So basically what we understand is the president is going to come from Marine One right here to Air Force One, and he's headed to the Kentucky/Cincinnati, Ohio area. His first stop will be at a packaging facility where he's going to learn about, again, being efficient in packaging. The whole visit is really based around jobs, the economy, and getting people to work and getting this country going. And then he's going to stop in Reading, Ohio at Thermo Fisher. That is a pharmaceutical manufacturing company. As you know, Trump RX is one of the things he's been talking about. He wants to allow the American public to buy prescription medication directly from manufacturing. He also wants to make sure that the prices for prescription medication in this country go down. As you guys know, sometimes people are ordering their drugs, their prescriptions from Canada or overseas because it's sometimes a fifth of the cost. Certainly the elderly in Florida are known for doing this. So there's also a couple of congressional seats that are up in that area. It's the first time that he's been there since 2024. There was a big event there when he was running. So again, he is headed to the Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky area this afternoon, and we're going to follow that as it happens. At the same point, we're also in the Midwest today. We are following what is happening about an hour outside of Chicago. Horrible tornadoes are there. Katie Byrne is there. You know when there's bad weather, we're going to check in with her. And it's just a mess out there, correct?
It's unsettling seeing all this. And so we've got a lot of damage. A lot of it is concentrated, though, in commercial industrial areas here in the town of Kankakee, which I should say it's a city. It's a big area. We've got a population of 20,000 plus people here. And what you're looking at is a motel. This is one of the hardest hit spots we have seen here in the town. We have been talking to people who survived this inside some of the areas that you could be inside of the motel, but also workers too. In fact, that woman that you just saw walk in the building, she was in the front office when this tornado moved through around dinner time last night, and she used her body to throw it against the front door to try to keep it shut because the strength of the wind was pulling it open. She ended up having to escape to the second floor of this building, which is totally destroyed. You can see the inside of what looks like a living room here. You could see there's a clock in there. There's some shelves. It looks like kitchen utensils and things like that. All of this just exposed the elements. And in fact, right now we have some rain starting up again. We had rain for pretty much non-stop after this storm for hours. It stopped maybe mid-morning, and then it's now picking up once again. So you could see this roof collapsed into itself onto a car over here. We were talking to people who just described this as happening so quickly. They had really next to no time to hide. Some of them ended up going into bathtubs in some of these units that you can see on this side. And you see this car over here with the no windows? Every car, almost every single car in this parking lot has its windows blown out. That's from the hail from this storm. The man who lives in, or was staying in this unit, showed me a picture of one piece of hail that blew through his front window. It's actually this car right here, because they can't go anywhere. The cars are trapped because there's trees down everywhere. That piece of hail was the size of a softball. So just insane to see this play out here in really, about 60 miles south of Chicago where we are. So a big area impacting a lot of people. Amazingly, nobody was killed here in the town of Kankakee. Though officials say 7 people did have minor injuries. They are just so grateful that the track of the tornado actually stuck with more of a commercial industrial area as opposed to the residential side of town. Still, these businesses, I mean, this one likely a total loss. So people's livelihoods are definitely impacted, Jen.
And you said it, like they can't, the cars are a mess and there's trees everywhere. Like, how are they supposed to get food? I'm assuming there's no electricity there. Like, how are they supposed to get out of there?
Yeah, so people have been basically climbing over debris because you can get out of this parking lot by going through the back, but there's all these trees down, so you can't get out. So they've been climbing through the debris and bringing all of their belongings in bags to the street where people have been, family, friends have been picking them up and taking them somewhere else. So some people were assisted by the Red Cross last night and they were put up in a hotel. But of course, many of them are now looking for longer term plans because this was a motel, but a lot of people did have an extended stay arrangement. So it sounded like a lot of people were here for a little bit longer and everybody kind of knew each other. They described it as a family. They were all looking out for each other when this happened. That woman that hunkered down in the front office, she works here, but she also lives here. And she got separated from her daughter. Her daughter was in the apartment across the way. Just like heart pounding moments for them until they could reunite. But everyone was okay, incredibly. Nobody was hurt here, though 15 people did have to be evacuated.
I mean, if there's any good news, that's it. All right, Katie Byrne, thank you so much. Just a complete disaster there. Thank you so much. We appreciate the help. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're still waiting on the president's plane, I do believe. And we've got a lot more coming at you, including there is a person in our region that has now been put on the FBI's most wanted list. Kelly Rule is going to tell us all about that in a few minutes. Welcome back in, everybody. We're still watching Air Force One. We do expect the president to come from the White House via Marine One, land here, and then get on Air Force One. He's headed to Kentucky and Ohio. He's going to meet with some manufacturing companies, and he's also going to have some lawmakers that are running for congressional seats there. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we see him on the tarmac there. The other thing that we're talking about today, Philadelphia now has a person, a fugitive, that the FBI has placed on its most wanted list. Kelly Rule is on that story this afternoon. And it's a story that I think most of us remember hearing when it happened, 2019?
Actually 2014, but
Okay.
I think it probably feels like 2019 or even more recent for some people because we did cover it pretty extensively. It was before I was here. But first, I'll show you the person that they added to this list. So this is Trung Duc Lee. Again, the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitive list. So obviously a huge priority list for them. There is a $1 million reward for information that leads to his arrest. And according to the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office, this is the last individual they're looking for in connection to a horrific case from back, like I said, in August of 2014, the murder of two brothers, two Vietnamese brothers, attempted murder of a third victim as well. So according to our coverage from back then, the three men were actually lured to this home here in Southwest Philadelphia, and they were tortured, beaten, and then were kidnapped and taken to the Schuylkill River. And the two brothers were, and the third individual were dumped in the river. They had, I think the brothers were, their throats were slit. They had weights attached to them, and they died in the river. But that third victim actually managed to escape and played a crucial role in testifying and bringing some of the other individuals involved in this crime to justice. But Mr. Liu is the last one that they are still looking for at this point. And they do believe he is from Vietnam and is currently in Vietnam. So this is like a national worldwide search at this point. But it all kind of ties back to this horrific case happening in Philadelphia in 2014. And they said that the victims, although this kind of all was in connection to a drug scheme that went wrong, they were two individuals that lived lives and had families and jobs. And this is all about bringing justice and closure to their families as well.
Do we know, Kelly, if do they get this FBI most wanted list in Vietnam or in other countries? I'm assuming with social media and that type of thing, like for us, it's a big deal, right? It's a big deal to be, for the FBI to make it this priority. But do they put that out in other countries? I don't know if we know that.
Yeah, I don't know for sure if they actually have a field office there that they're able to do that with, but they did say when it comes to this point, this is a collaboration with partners, not only across the country, but across the world. And they obviously know he's not in the United States anymore. So they're really relying on those partners and those connections to be able to get the person back here, extradite them here to face justice. But to put him on this list, it means they really need help in doing so. And I think that $1 million reward is a big factor in this. They've seen success with it in the past, and they're hoping it will work in this case as well.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And yeah, I hope they can find him. All right, Kelly Rule, we appreciate the help.
Yeah.
The other thing we're looking at, we've talked about this, the Senate is open. So we're going to go to them real quickly. You know what? They're not helping us out. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk about your money and so much more when we come right back. Welcome back in. This is Philadelphia Live. This is a live image of Marine One. We were talking about this. The president was expected to travel via Marine One right there from the White House to this larger airport. We do see this quite a bit. This is how he moves from state to state. If he, is going to South Florida, either to one of his private residences or to speak there, this is SOP. Basically how it works. So yes, they have Marine One, which is a helicopter right there. And typically, as he gets out of that helicopter, you will see members of his staff, potentially the First Lady. We really don't know who's in there. It's really a way to get him efficiently to this bigger airport. And also it's a security issue because they have him there. They know where he is. We've talked a little bit to authorities and law enforcement about how they move any president around the United States Capitol, Washington, D.C., and different administrations do it differently. Certainly, President Trump is someone who is known around the world. And in times like this, you better believe the members of our military want to make sure that our president is safe. So this is a really efficient and safe way to get him going to places that he has on his calendar. We do know that once he goes over to Air Force One, he'll get in the plane, and then they will be traveling as a unit to the Kentucky/Ohio region. First, he's going to make a stop at a Kentucky packaging facility. Remember, he has said the reason why he wants the tariffs assigned to goods in other countries is to make it so that United States manufacturing can come alive. He has said he believes when he puts a tariff on another country, it gives American companies a better chance of being successful in this arena. So he is going to visit a packaging facility, kind of, see how it works, see what they might need in terms of federal money, federal support. And then we know later he is going to Reading, Ohio. The company there is called Thermo Fisher, and we're being told that is a pharmaceutical company. The reason why he is going there is he has talked about this. He and his administration believe that the American public should be able to buy pharmaceuticals directly from manufacturing companies. He wants to cut out the middle person. I think all of us, especially if we have elderly parents or someone who has a hefty bill in terms of medical issues, know that pharmaceuticals in the United States are many times pricey. They're way more expensive. We heard all about things like an EpiPen that was like hundreds of dollars here, and you could get it for less than $10 in other countries. So many people in different states will order from different countries. It's another thing the president does not want to happen. So no one is surprised that he's meeting with pharmaceutical companies and manufacturing. So there you see the first member of the president's detail. It's a very, very specific and planned way that they get the president out of Marine One. And no matter who the president is, it just makes you feel, candidly, American to see the process, how it works. It's always, as we watch this live right along with you guys, always interesting to see who's on that aircraft with him, who is traveling in the tight-knit group that would be with the president, who's going to be on that plane as the group travels to the Kentucky, Ohio area. So you see that the Marines are there standing. They're full of tension, as we would expect nothing less. And I have to believe we're going to see the president himself as we have 2, 3 salutes. Again, this is how they make sure the president gets to where he needs to be safely and efficiently. So there you see the president. He'll probably say hi, hello, how you doing? Oh, you know what? That might be they call it, it's a certain kind of coin that he can hand out. And I do know with the military coins, because I've been given one, should you go into a location where the people, it's an honor coin. It's got a name. There's a name for it. JP's going to Google it for me. But there's a coin, and should you find yourself in a restaurant or drinking establishment, certainly like, the VA clubs and things like that, you all put down your coin. Whoever has the highest ranking coin basically pays the bill. And even if
presidential
challenge coin, that's what it is. So what you do is you put that coin down in a challenge, and you then have to pay the bill. I know this because, again, he's saying hello as he gets on Air Force One. I was given a challenge coin, not given the full rules of it, and I was given it by the Undersecretary of the Army at the time. And let's just say I had to pay some bills until I figured out what the what the tradition is there. So again, that's the President of the United States as he gets on a plane, again, headed to Kentucky and Ohio. And he is going to be talking about the economy, and it's something that everyone is talking about. Whether you care about how much it's costing for you to fill up your tank, you might have just opened up your energy bill. I had a friend that was like, wow, I need to downsize my home. The economy is really affecting people in so many ways. It's one of the reasons why we've rung him up again. Timothy Chubb, CIO at Gerard. We do appreciate you hanging out with us. So you see the president there. You know he's headed to talk about the economy. You are not surprised.
Yeah, no, I think affordability has been coming back into the headlines, once again, so far this year, and it's actually coming on a day where we got some news about February, consumer prices, the CPI index that showed some stability so far this year, but unfortunately, I think all that stability on the surface is kind of stale underneath at this point, given what's been transpiring with Iran and oil and gas prices after the last couple of weeks of conflict there.
You talk to people all the time about their money, and their money is different depending on where you are, right? There's Kardashian money, there's Jen Frederick money, I got a kid in college, he's worried about his money. Generally, when we look at the economy, when we look at grocery prices, gasoline, the electric bill, like, what do people care about first? What is the first thing that they're like, whoa, it's happening, inflation's real, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a combination of factors, like you said. Every consumer is a bit different, but energy and prices are really a large portion of the American household budget. It's definitely gone down over time as we've become much more of a service-based economy in the last 20 years. But overall, it's still about 20 to 25% of the American household budget, whether it's filling up the tank or heating your home. And so we did see gasoline prices fall about 5.5% in the February inflation report, but unfortunately, they're up about 25% since then, with crude oil hitting $90 a barrel today.
So I think we heard somewhere one member of the administration said, this is going to be over in 5 weeks. We're going to be fine in 5 weeks. And by that, I mean the conflict. And I think it was part of a larger conversation that was being had about this isn't going to be like a prolonged thing. But 5 weeks, I mean, it doesn't immediately adjust back to below $3 at the gas pump, right? It will take some time after the conflict to rebound, if you will, or to reestablish where we were. How long does that actually take?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's unfortunately a question that we're all asking ourselves as investors today. One of the major headlines that came out that has been moving markets was the International Energy Agency, the IEA. They actually announced the largest emergency oil release in history, just to bring more supply into the market to help prices start to normalize a little bit. The most recent release of all these oil reserves was actually back in 2022. That was the largest at the time. This is more than double that. And unfortunately, we have seen oil prices respond today by moving higher. And so that would ultimately result, I guess, in our view, that the market investors are a bit more worried about just the timing of how long this conflict may take, when we can potentially see oil prices normalize. And so 10 million barrels a day are flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. This basically covers 40 days of a disruption. And obviously, we don't hope, and especially for our service members, that it lasts that long. But it's just somewhat of kind of how the market's been interpreting the length of how long this could ultimately impact gasoline prices.
I have presented to you several times that I do not study the markets like you do. That's your job. My job is to look at this computer and look at the notes here. And one of the things that I'm seeing, which gave me a what? I remember this time last week, we said the market cannot bear $100 a barrel. And we woke up on Monday morning, 120. This thingy right here that I'm reading from a very reputable source says oil prices could go to 150. What do we do with that?
Yeah, oh, gosh. Yeah, every $10 of increase in the price of oil, translates to about 25 cents at the pump. So the swings that we've seen within the oil markets within the last week have been unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's trading around like Bitcoin. It's been extremely volatile as investors are just trying to get a sense of how long this will last. Ultimately, how are refineries being impacted and the like. And $150 dollars a barrel would definitely be the worst case scenario. I think from a strategic standpoint, that's really what Iran's probably pushing for. However, you can see between the IEA as well as other countries that have been looking to mitigate that risk and bring more oil into the market on the supply side to prevent oil prices from getting out of hand and up to those levels. So that would certainly be a headwind for the growth of our U.S. and global economy. It would be a contributing force to higher rates of inflation, and unfortunately really complicate the Federal Reserve, who many, including ourselves, would expect them to cut interest rates again a couple times later this year. And if inflation's not moving in the right direction, closer to that 2% number, it's definitely going to give them some pause. And they're meeting next week to talk about trajectory of rates for their March FOMC meeting.
I was hoping you'd give us some good news, but no. Listen, we appreciate you stopping by, and we like that you can explain it with credibility, but in a way that we can all understand. And please dig in that briefcase and find some good news for the next time that we see you. Okay?
Yeah, we'll do. Hopefully, we'll move past this conflict shortly, and we'll get back down at $3 a gallon again.
I like it. All right, Timothy Chubb, CIO at Gerard. So we're very appreciative to have him with us intermittently. And there we have the president's plane. Looks like it is moving. So again, we've talked about this. Marine One brought him here. He has now boarded Air Force One. We watched all of that happen live. We're told that the president is headed to the Kentucky/Ohio area. He has 2 stops on his public calendar. Both of them, he will be flanked with all kinds of local lawmakers and certainly people that are vying for the congressional seat that he is, he's there to support those people that are running on the Republican ticket. He will make 2 stops. The first stop is going to be at a packaging facility. A big part of his whole message, his whole motivation in terms of the tariffs being placed on other countries is making it more affordable for American companies, certainly in manufacturing, to get going. And so he's going to meet with them there. The other big part of what he's been talking about in terms of trying to make it easier for the American person to pay their bills is pharmaceuticals. Certainly the elderly, they talk about it all the time. A big part of their monthly budget is spent on medications, and those medications in many instances are just so much more expensive when they buy them right here in the United States. The president has suggested that there could be a plan where individuals could basically buy their medications right from manufacturing companies. So certainly that would be a mail order situation. It would be interesting to see how that would happen, because many pharmacists, as you can only imagine, don't like that plan because of the idea of so many conflicts that there could be in terms of if you take certain medications, if you're ordering another one, it could be contraindicated. And so there's many people within the industry that say it's a great idea, but they don't know if it's plausible. So again, we are looking at the president's plane. He's in the DC area. They brought him here from Marine One. So what we're going to do, we know that it's going to take off. We are going to take you to a quick break. We're going to be back in 2 minutes. We have a lot happening today. welcome back in, everybody. We're going to take you live to, it's Rowan University, right, in New Jersey. That's where he is. So there you see it right there. That is Congressman Donald Norcross. He's talking about, that is not actually, look at that. We just switched people. I looked down at my notes. We're going to listen in. Basically, there's going to be a big community investment at Rowan University.
Oh, I was going to say, you might have to explain that one.
So good afternoon, and thank you, Congressman Norcross, for joining us today and for your continued partnership with Gloucester County. I mean, you called me, you told me you had a check for $850,000. I said, are you bringing the big check down? You said, if you want. So you didn't bring the big deposit slips, though.
That's on your end.
I could try and scan that into my Capital One, but I don't know. Today we're celebrating you giving us the check for the $850,000 from the Community Project Funding Award that will help move forward the expansion of Thomas Edison Parkway on Rowan University's West Campus. Now, I use West Campus loosely because West Campus is here. It's on the other side of the road, and wherever Dr. Hushman decides where it's going to go, yeah. Because I know we got manufacturing planned over here. You got your wellness village over there. You're going to see more of me. If you're trying to get rid of me, this ain't happening. So combined with other monies that we have secured through New Jersey's Local Transportation Projects Fund, this investment allows us to complete Phase 2 of this critical infrastructure project. This work will extend Gilbreth Parkway along Route 55. The road goes right on out, right behind us here. It goes all the way out and it goes complete Edison Parkway out to Lambs Road. And it will improve access, support growth on Rowan West Campus, and strengthening the transportation network for residents, students, and businesses. Congressman Norcross, you know, he doesn't always just give everything to Rowan University, although you get a nice share from, yes. You work on them. I think it's because you wear a tie and I don't. Congressman Norcross, you have also secured additional funding across Gloucester County. I just want to make mention of it. I know you'll probably do something in those towns, but we want to thank you for the support for the rescue pumper for Westville Fire Department, Fire District, improvements to Winona's Cedar Avenue Recreation Complex, and also Washington Township's safety upgrades to their park system. These investments make our community safer, improve quality of life, and support smart growth across our county. So again, I can't thank you enough, Don. I mean, Don is not just someone who brings us money. Don is a friend. He is here with a check or without a check, and we want to thank you every time you show up.
So Frank has the easy part. He gets to accept a check. Our next speaker is the guy who has to make it work. And certainly into his first term, he's doing remarkable things. And people looked at, gee, if you have public works, that's the one we'll just like go over. That's actually the exciting part because you build things and make sure it gets done. Please welcome Commissioner Matt Wang.
Thank you, Congressman Norcross. Thank you, President Hushman. Thank you, Mayor Zimmerman. From Mantua, Director DeMarco. I learned something just today, which is that this double yellow line we're on right now, that's the dividing line between Mantua and Harrison. So, yeah, now, see, he's technically out of Harrison, so the deputy mayor is in control of the town as long as he's on this side of the yellow line. Yeah. But it's wonderful to be here. It's always great to be at an event where we're building things, where we're doing new things, where we're expanding. And anytime Rowan's involved, you know that's going to be the case. This is going to be a huge project. Like everyone has said, it's going to go right back behind us, continue out and join along Route 55, that's Gilbreth Parkway. But then there's going to be a phase 3. There's going to be more to this, so we're not even done yet. As President Hushman says, we're not done. We're never done. You ain't seen nothing yet. We're going to continue on to phase 3. Continue this expansion because, as the previous speakers have noted, it's going to help with congestion, but it's also going to help with public safety, with response times for fire and police and EMS. Having this cut through, being able to get right onto Route 55 from here, get off Route 55 into here, is going to be huge for everybody in the area, not just Rowan, the community. Mantua, Harrison, Pittman, Glassboro, everywhere around here is going to benefit from the work that we're able to do. And what I want to focus on and stress is that the only reason we're able to do this work is because of the partnerships that we've built from the local to the federal level. With Mayor Zimmerman and the Mantua Police Department here supporting us, we got a significant funding from the state DOT. They were a big part of this project. And then we needed to close the gap. We needed to finish funding it to make sure we get the project done. We make a phone call to Congressman Norcross, and it gets done. So it's those partnerships from the local to the county to the state to the federal to our education establishments that accomplish these projects. And that's what I want to focus on, is everybody working together. You don't often see it, and in times like this, it can be easy to be cynical about some of the things that government does or doesn't do. And that's why it's so rewarding and validating to see at the local level a project like this that gets done, that benefits people, and it only got done because people worked together to make it happen. So thank you to
So there you go. They're talking a lot about this investment in Rowan University. We're going to continue to dip in and out because there's several speakers. There you see Representative Norcross coming back up to the podium. At the same time, we're talking to Shayna, who I understand has just completed a very emotional interview in a good way. I believe it's in a good way because people are trying to help each other. Shayna, why don't you give us what's going on out there?
Yeah, for sure. So we're in Sellersville, Upper Bucks County, and just an emotional story in a good way, but certainly a tearjerker. Just speaking to a great guy who was actually I guess a product, if you will, of the Big Brothers Big Sister organization. He and his big brother matched in Willingboro, New Jersey, over 50 years ago, and they're still the best of friends to this day. He is, a person that really looks to, his brother, literally as his brother. He was a person that lost his dad very young and really benefited from the program. And to our knowledge, they are the first big brother, little brother pair in Willingboro, New Jersey for the Big Brothers organization. And so 50 years later, still very good friends, milestones, birthdays, graduations, weddings, the whole nine. Well, the big brother, Charlie, who's going to be 80 in July, got really, really sick. The four of them, so John, who is the little brother, John's wife, Charlie, who's the big brother, and Charlie's wife, the four of them were actually on their way to St. Martin for a couples trip, Valentine's Day weekend, and Charlie fell ill and was having a seizure while they were in St. Martin. And after a ton of hospital examinations, they realized that he was critical and needed to be taken back to the U.S. It wasn't an option to get him to Jersey, and so they had to medevac him to Miami, which would have been the closest level 1 trauma center, but they didn't have the money to make that happen. And so John Wilson, who's the little brother, stepped up, put up over $100,000 to get his big brother back to the States. And so he's been such a big proponent of his healing and his journey. At this point, Charlie's gone through several surgeries and procedures. He's finally back now here in our area in New Jersey at a rehab center, getting the help that he needs. But it certainly would not have gotten this far if it wasn't for this big brother, little brother bond that they had that has formed over the past 50 years. And so you'll hear from John, who's the little brother. You'll also hear from Charlie's wife. Charlie is still in and out of Lucid because of his condition. He has a brain bleed. He has a number of cardiac issues, seizures that he's had. So he really has a lot going on health-wise. And so he hasn't been able to speak, but his wife spoke. So we heard from the wife. We heard from John. And so we'll put this all together for you guys coming up at 5:30 for the full story. But it really is a great story of just how much being a good person counts in the long run, and you see just how much this relationship has mattered and how much he was willing to put up for his big brother. So it's a really heartwarming story of the goodness of people, and so you'll see that coming up.
It's so interesting. I have a friend who is in her 40s, and she lives in Florida. Her little went to Temple, and the whole time she was like, my little needs a laptop, my little needs a this. And now they're like, they celebrate, holidays, they go on vacations. The connection in many instances is way closer than I think most people have any idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going back 50 years. And this is a guy that, lost his dad when he was young. He was the youngest of five. He had four older sisters, and his mom, a single mom at the time, had the wisdom to say, I think my son needs guidance. He needs that male relationship. And boy, did it pan out so well for them. He's been part of, John's life, from college graduations to big milestones, his wedding. He's the godfather to his children. I mean, this program really means so much to so many people, and it keeps so many kids out of trouble and helps families, really. So it's really cool to see it all play out, and certainly last to stand the test of time, if you will. And so we just wrapped up a really great interview, and you'll see and get to meet them coming up later in the shows.
They truly are brothers from another mother. All right, thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back. I believe you're going to have the honor of seeing Greg Payne. Everyone loves him. And so much more. So stick around. We're going to be right back. Welcome back in, everybody. I'm Jen Frederick. We're going to be on with you until 2 o'clock. Why? Because we do it every day. Also, there's a lot happening. Check this out. Right next to me, that's the Senate floor. House is in recess. And, we've talked about this. Typically Wednesday, Thursday, the busier days, because on Thursday, the senators and the congresspeople, the representatives, they all go back to their home district for like a 3-day weekend to work in the district on Friday and be with their families Saturday, Sunday. Below, that is a really great shot of the infrastructure and transportation in and around Philadelphia. Not JP's favorite shot of the skyline, but it will serve a purpose once you hear Greg Payne and his story. And then the bummer right there. That is a live picture of the New York Stock Exchange. All right, so why are we looking at something that has to do with transportation and the city of Philadelphia? I will let my friend Greg Payne give us the whole story. Good afternoon, bud.
Hey, good afternoon, Jen. Yes, so where we are located right now is in the Market East area, and you're familiar with it. You see the fashion district here. Well, one of the other things that you tend to see when you're walking around Market East is some of these boarded up businesses here. And it's been like that for quite some time, but the city has announced that they are investing about $1.8 million, and that's going to go to beautify this area. That is going to include a large amount of murals and artwork around this area. There's also going to be several pop-up businesses that are going to be located in some of these spots that you see here in Market East. And you're going to see some like more trees planted. I know you see some right here, but there's going to be some additional trees that are planted. They're going to be doing like a whole paint job on some of like the subway stops areas and the bus stop areas, and changing the lighting. So a lot of stuff to improve this area. Now, the reason why they mentioned that they are doing this is because, of course, we have a lot going on this year, especially with the World Cup coming. So they really want to try to beautify the Market East area. And so this is a huge step that they are taking to try to improve this area so that it doesn't have this look that we've seen for quite some time with the boarded up businesses and things like that. Now, there is mixed feelings on this. A lot of people, one, are either, excited. We spoke with a business here that is very excited to see this because they were mentioning the fact that if you're adding more stuff to this area, that means more foot traffic. That obviously means good things for business, and especially during a period of time when there's going to be a lot of people here in the city of Philadelphia. You've also heard community members who are excited about it, but one of their concerns is the fact that this is all being announced, and they're even saying it in the press release that this has to do with the World Cup and just the celebration of the 250th birthday of America. So a lot of people in the community, they have kind of some mixed feelings about that, because they're like, well, before all these celebrations happened, it's been left looking like this, and now we have a situation where a lot of people are coming. We're deciding to improve this area. So that has kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. They would hope that there would be a permanent fix and not just a temporary fix because of all these events that we have going on. But yeah, that's the story, Jen.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's just it. We want to feel safe all the time, not just when there's a bunch of visitors in town. Thank you for your help on that. Hey, we just learned that Eagles are having a press conference. They're going to announce some of their deals that they've made. That's the good news. The bad news, they're doing it at 2:30, so I'm sure we'll have it on probably our YouTube channel and some other things, but I just wanted to bring you up to date on that. We talked about this. The U.S. Senate is in action today. We're going to listen in for just a few minutes.
Put forward is a unanimous consent. Every Democrat has already consented to this bill. We want to get this done. The question now before us is whether the Republicans will object. And if they object, it will send a very clear signal that they are not interested in opening up TSA at our airports, FEMA for natural disasters, or CISA protecting us from cyber threats. I would hope my Republicans will join us to open up government in these key components of homeland security. We're concerned about lines at our airports. We're concerned about our TSA agents able to pay their bills for their family. And if Republicans do not object to Senator Murray's bill, they will move forward. They will get paid. Those resources will be released. If Republicans don't, it's on them. It's on my Republican colleagues to keep TSA closed. Let's be very clear. This is very simple. FEMA, as we're moving into a time when natural disasters will be hitting us. We had a natural disaster in Michigan just this week with tornadoes. We need FEMA operating. We need FEMA employees being paid and able to do their job. Senator Murray is going to fix that unless we get Republicans that oppose it, and then Republicans will own that. We are also at war right now with Iran. Probably, and I'm speaking as the ranking member of Homeland Security, as probably one of the most significant threats to the homeland from Iran is cyber attacks. They're good at it. We know they are. We know we have to have persistent defenses against those cyber attacks against the homeland. But I'll just say, even prior to this debate about appropriations, let's also be clear. The Trump administration has basically fired 1/3 of all of our cyber experts who would be on the front line protecting the homeland from a cyber attack. They fired them, got rid of them. The agency doesn't have the tools necessary to protect the homeland at a time that we are at war. It's unacceptable. But now we got to make sure those folks that are remaining continue to get paid and have the resources to protect us. And that will happen unless Republicans object to the bill that Senator Murray is going to put forward. And I'll just say, if they object today, if my colleagues on the Republican side object, and we're hit with a cyber attack and aren't fully prepared, they own that, not Democrats. Democrats right now are saying, move this bill. We all agree that it has to be done. And now I know we might hear some arguments about CBP and ICE. We know that they're already funded. Let's be clear. The big bill that passed last year basically provides 5 times the amount of money that's actually in the appropriations bill that we are currently debating. So they're getting their resources. The only thing that's happening if Republicans object to this bill is that TSA is closed, isn't getting support, FEMA, CISA, all these key, and let's not forget the United States Coast Guard and all the amazing work that they do protecting us each and every day. We want to fund the Coast Guard, TSA, FEMA, CISA. That will happen today out of the Senate as long as my Republican colleagues do not object. But I want the American people to be clear. Don't listen to all the rhetoric from the other side. The Republicans will own this if they object. So I would encourage all my colleagues to let this move forward. And when Senator Murray puts forward this proposal, please do not object. Let's do this for the American people.
Minority Leader. Mr. President, today Patty Murray in a few moments will ask UC to fund all of DHS except ICE and CBP. Today we have a block of floor speakers to preview this UC request. This morning, the Senate resumed consideration of the housing amendment, and we've been working hard on the Road Act, but I don't know if we'll get consent. We have objections to speeding up the time for votes, so we might have votes when the times expire. But that's where we're at on the floor, just to let members know. Now, hold on one second. Okay. So the bottom line here is what Leader Murray is Ranking Member Murray is doing is very simple. If you want to fund TSA, if you want to fund all of the agencies in Homeland Security except ICE and CPB, this is the way to do it. Don't object, and it'll all happen. I don't want to hear any complaints from Republicans about TSA not being funded if they block this today. I don't want to hear any complaints from Republicans about Coast Guard not being funded if they block this today. I don't want to hear any complaints from Republicans about cybersecurity and CISA if they block this today. The bottom line is very simple. There's a simple way to get this all done. Of course, had the Republicans agreed to very simple things to do with ICE and with Border Patrol, things that every police department does, show identity, use warrants before you bust in on somebody's house, we could get this done and get everything funded. But the bottom line is they refused, probably because the right wing doesn't like it. So then, let's fund everything else but ICE and Border Patrol.
All right, so bottom line, this is a topic that many people are interested in, especially because we are here in spring break travel season. It'll be interesting to see what they can get accomplished. But as you can see, several senators are working on getting that partial government shutdown adjusted, working on the funding. 2 Democrats we heard from. It'll be interesting if we hear from Democrats. We're here till 2, so we have Republicans. We're here till 2. Asher Red is with us. Farmers are just one of the big sectors of employment that are feeling all of this from the conflict in Iran. I'm going to say the name of the town. Asher, you're going to tell me if I'm wrong. Murfreesboro, Tennessee?
Yep, that's right.
There we go. Good afternoon. What's going on there?
Well, yeah, Jen, Jen, here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, some farmers are telling me that they're really starting to feel a bit of a pinch from these high diesel prices. And farmers already work on notoriously tight profit margins, sometimes only making a few cents for the crops that they produce. Now take a look at this tractor behind me that runs on 170 gallons of diesel fuel, and it needs to be filled up just about every day. But a gallon of diesel fuel will probably run you about $4.83, depending on where you are in the country, and that means that right there will shake out to about $820 a day for just that tractor.
On diesel, we probably burn about 500 gallons a day in planting season.
Planting season simply wouldn't be possible without diesel fuel. And with energy prices surging ever since the U.S. started striking Iran, farmers like Will Hutchinson say the timing couldn't be worse.
It's kind of caught us off guard a little bit.
About 20% of the world's oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz off Iran's coast, and the Iranian regime has been threatening to attack any vessel that tries to cross. So with all those oil shipments at a standstill for now, some farmers are relying on what's already in storage.
It really helps, gives us an elasticity in times like this. If we don't get some resolution here in the next few months, we'll burn through that buffer that we have here.
Hutchinson stores about 20,000 gallons of diesel and 6,000 gallons of LP fuel like propane, which doesn't last long during peak season.
We probably burn about 1,500 gallons a day in diesel, and then also at harvest we'll burn about 5,000 gallons of LP a day.
AAA says a gallon of diesel cost about $3.63 this time last year. Analysts say gas prices could keep climbing for several weeks, even if the Iran conflict ends soon.
The big question is how high they could go, and we just don't know. It depends on how long the conflict drags on, how long the bottleneck in the Strait of Hormuz winds up becoming.
But Hutchinson says he's been through this before and believes that one bad season doesn't ruin long-term success.
If you think about it like a roller coaster, which it very much is, we get to ride in the front row.
And the Energy Information Administration says crude oil made up more than 2/3 of the U.S. Petroleum imports in 2023. And a lot of farmers I've been speaking with tell me that is a perfect example of why the U.S. should strive to be more energy independent moving forward. Jen?
Makes sense, makes sense. I'm hoping for them. I hope this gets resolved sooner rather than later. Thank you, Asher. We appreciate the help. He's talking about fuel prices. We're talking about fuel prices. We're going to show you a AAA interactive map. We're going to bring it up. So look at this. This is Pennsylvania. And what's cool is that it's very interactive and it goes county by county. So right there, that's Philadelphia. $3.61 about. All right, give me bucks. $3 about the same. A little bit lower. Give me, you know what? Okay, so Pennsylvania's good. What about like over there? Okay, let's do New Jersey, which is always cheaper. Camden, yeah, that's 10 cents cheaper, and they pump it for you. You don't have to get out of your car. So it's more expensive down there. Cape May, that's the highest, which aligns with some of the other areas, Ocean County. So I guess if you want to have the cheapest gas, you want to go, where's the blue? No, the other blue. Oh, that blue. Why is it cheaper by New York City? That's dumb. Again, says me, I know nothing about anything. I do know this. I can count on the people to give me the resources. So let's go to Delaware, because we did, do they have Delaware? Okay, let's do Delaware. That is Delaware. Okay, that's where you want to go. That's interesting because, you know, we always hear about how the gas prices are the cheapest in New Jersey. And look, if you wanted to go all the way down where Ben, one of our directors, lives, you could do that.
I'm wondering if it's also like tax related.
It has to be.
There is no tax in Delaware.
Right. Sales tax.
No sales tax.
I wonder if it's the no sales tax. But why haven't they been telling us forever? They've told us that if we're traveling to Delaware and staying overnight, definitely not bringing it back to Pennsylvania, the alcohol is cheaper. But they've never told us about the gas. Unless I wasn't listening, which I'm guilty of that too. By the way, you're listening to Caitlin, who's one of our super awesome producers here. All right, we're going to take, are we going to go back to the Senate floor? Okay, we're going to go back to the Senate floor because they're talking about your money. They're talking about this partial government shutdown, which means the lines at TSA are long. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. So we're going to listen to what they're saying now.
6 out of 7 of the people who have been arrested and detained and moved to different locations by ICE and CBP were people who had no criminal record. None. Not one. 6 out of 7. What kind of law enforcement operation is that that gets 6 innocent people for every person who's guilty? Something's wrong here. We've got to change it. And some basic questions. Would you want the door of your house to be crashed down? Of course not. And if you did, you'd think it better be for good reason if the government's going to do that to my home and my family. And that requires the court to give approval to it to happen. It's called a judicial warrant. Except the ICE agents believe they're not bound by that law. They can crash down a door if they wish. And they've done it over and over and over again. Do you think that's right? I don't. It's one of the issues we want to debate with them. And when it comes to the mask that they're wearing, I talked to law enforcement back in my home state of Illinois. How many of our state troopers wear a mask to work every day? None. How many of the Chicago policemen wear a mask every day? None. What it comes down to is we're pushing for good police practices that are applied in communities all across America. Somehow or another, the ICE agents think they're exceptional. They don't have to identify themselves and they can wear a mask. I think that's wrong. And when it comes to their jurisdiction, it's an esoteric legal question, but it's an important one. How far can the Border Patrol go beyond the border to enforce the law? They believe under this administration, they can go anywhere in the United States. Previous administrations believe that the statutes have restrained where they can go. These are fundamental questions that relate to the Constitution, to the Bill of Rights, and to the laws in this land. We want to make sure that they're followed, and that's why we're negotiating the future of ICE and Border Patrol. But today, Senator Murray is going to give notice again. We are prepared to fund every other aspect of the Department of Homeland Security. That is something that I think is fair and should go forward. The Republicans opposed it last week. I hope that they'll support us this week. The men and women of TSA should not be held hostage to our negotiation. Let's get serious about getting all the negotiation done, but in the meantime, let's fund the agencies that are critical in this department. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Senator Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, right now, TSA agents are going without pay because Republicans and the White House have decided they would rather shut down all of DHS than pass some very basic reforms to rein in ICE and Border Patrol. For weeks on end, Democrats have been very crystal clear about what measures need to be put in place before a full DHS bill can pass. These are steps that the American people are demanding and that local police departments across the country already follow. And we've also been clear that when it comes to reining in these out-of-control agencies and preventing more Americans from being shot and killed by masked federal agents, half steps are not going to cut it. But Republicans are acting like they have no idea what the problem is or what Democrats and what the American people are demanding here. And now Republicans are not only dragging their feet on the basic reforms, they are refusing to fund TSA and FEMA and other important DHS functions while these negotiations continue. Now, Mr. President, in my view, that's just plain wrong. If Republicans are going to drag their feet on common sense reforms to protect their own constituents from having their door broken in by masked federal agents without so much as a warrant, then they should, at a minimum, work with us to make sure that TSA is funded. At minimum, we should make sure that disaster relief is not put at risk and that our cyber defense agency is fully operational. I offered a bill to get this done, to fund all of DHS except ICE, Border Patrol, and former Secretary Noem's office. But last week, after spending the entire week talking about how important these parts of DHS are, Senate Republicans blocked that bill. But I'm here today to give Republicans another opportunity to do the right thing and ask my Republican colleagues to put politics aside for a moment, work with us to get TSA and FEMA funded now, and press ahead to rein in ICE and Border Patrol. Mr. President, my colleagues know me. They know I will talk to anyone who is serious about getting results. But the problem right now, the reason we are here at an impasse is not because Democrats don't want a deal. That's ridiculous. It is not because we aren't willing to talk. I've been talking to my colleagues across the aisle all week. The problem is that Republicans are still refusing to agree to basic measures that we need to protect Americans' basic rights and their safety, the same measures we have been demanding for weeks as part of these negotiations. Look, this just isn't complicated. Democrats' position here is simple. We want reforms to rein in ICE and Border Patrol. We also want TSA and FEMA funded, but we are not going to be blackmailed into cutting a blank check for ICE to get it done. So I hope Republicans stop listening to Stephen Miller and start getting serious about reform, or at the very least stop blocking the funding for TSA and FEMA and Coast Guard and more while these negotiations on ICE and Border Patrol continue. So, Mr. President, notwithstanding Rule 22, I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of my bill, it's at the desk, that the bill be considered read 3 times and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, reserving the right to object, I just heard the senator from Washington suggest that they're willing to sit down and talk with anybody at any time. But my understanding is there have been repeated overtures to the senator from Washington and other Senate Democrats from Republicans and the White House that have been rebuffed. Would the senator like to clarify her position on that? Because that's my understanding, and I think that that offer has been made repeatedly.
To the Majority Leader, thank you for asking that question, because I think it is really clear what's happened here. As the senator knows, during negotiations over the Christmas break, when everybody else was out doing what they do, we did negotiate the Senate DHS bill with our House counterparts, repeatedly asked for some things, and were rebuffed every single time, overridden by the White House. So I am here today to remind everybody that you, Mr. Leader, that the leader spoke to all of us when we came to a disagreement on DHS and ICE funding, that the leader himself said that this negotiation was between the Democratic leaders, that would be Senator Schumer and Senator Jeffries, and the White House. So I appreciate talking to my colleagues. I have talked to a number of them about what they might or might not be willing to, but having my experience here, and I would guess the experience of a number of my colleagues, until we know that the White House is actually really, and not just a representative, but is really at the table, which is what I believe the Majority Leader asked for, those are not real negotiations. I am willing to talk to people, but I'm not willing to sit in a room, have coffee, give away a few things, and have Stephen Miller override whatever we all agreed to in a room until I have that commitment. I'm certain that I speak for our Majority Leader as well, and for Leader Jeffries, that we need to know the White House is serious. It is what I've told my Republican colleagues every step of the way. When we have that, and we have the White House who seriously says to us, we believe there is a problem, we understand that, we do want to sit down at the highest levels, we'll all be there for that.
Mr. President, reclaiming my time, the situation to which I think the senator from Washington is referring is how we landed at the agreement on the DHS bill that we've been trying to vote on. Subsequently, Democrats walked away from that agreement. It was the White House, it was House Democrats, it was Senate Democrats, it was House Republicans, and it was Senate Republicans, all negotiated the original deal. The Democrats have more recently said that's not adequate. And so subsequent to that acknowledgement by the Democrats, there have been several now occasions where Republicans have offered to sit down and talk with Democrats, and there have been offers from the White House. And just to be clear, the latest offer between Senate Democrats and the White House, which is where the senator from Washington is suggesting this should reside, has come from the White House. I think it was somewhere on the order of about 12 or 13 days ago now. 13 days ago. And there's been no response from the Democrats to that latest offer. And subsequent to that, my colleague, senator from Alabama, and others have tried, by approaching the senator from Washington and other members of the Democrat caucus and leadership to actually sit down and have a conversation about a path forward. And usually around here, in order to get a deal, there has to be a negotiation where the two sides sit down together. And my understanding is that has been completely rebuffed by the senator from Washington. And so we are here today, and we are trying to close a deal that would enable us to fund all the agencies that the Democrats say they want funded with reforms to ICE. And I've seen the offer sheet from the White House, and they have gone a lot farther than any Democrat I think was even possible. And so we have a situation here, Mr. President, where one side is trying to get a deal to open up the government, to get people back to work, to fund the programs and functions that are important to the national security of our country. And we have one side that's saying, we're not going to sit down and talk. I don't know how you defend that, honestly. I mean, this is a one-sided negotiation in which the White House has put forward a proposal. Senate Republicans have said repeatedly, we are prepared to sit down and talk with Senate Democrats. And Senate Democrats, and my understanding is, the senator from Washington has said, sorry, we're not ready to talk. We have a lot of people who are unemployed, a lot of programs that aren't being funded, a lot of functions that aren't being performed. And, Mr. President, they're important to our country's national security.
Mr. President.
Now, one other thing, Mr. President, I'm reclaiming my time.
Mr. President, this was actually my time.
Reclaiming my time. No, it's reserving the right to object. The other thing that has been offered repeatedly is a continuing resolution
Mr. President,
that would allow a
regular
sufficient
order.
amount of time.
So again, they're all talking about the fact that they want to reopen parts of the government. Remember, there's been a Republican-Democrat fight about what to do with ICE, how to fund it. And because of that, the TSA is part of Homeland Security. So Homeland Security not being funded right now, which means you and I are standing in lines at the airport around spring break. It's a very small thing that's happening, but it's one of the ways where what's happening in Washington really affects all of us. Another way is the stock market. So check this out. We do have a live picture there of the New York Stock Exchange. You see it there, not looking good. When we spoke with Timothy Chubb earlier today, he did say that the IEA, basically it's a group that could open up oil reserves, opened it up and made it so that we would get enough oil that we would need, we being the globe, for 40 days. It did not help Wall Street, and here's why. Basically what they're saying is the decision made by DEA, quote, doesn't solve the other issues that are going to affect the global economy. That's according to an economist at Laird. He's basically saying that the products flow through the Straits of Hormuz, jet fuel, all of that, that is still paused. And so that is the bigger reason. Yes, it's good that oil reserves have been released. No, it's not good that that Strait of Hormuz, which some of us never knew about it 3 weeks ago, and now that's all we hear about is getting the fuel, the crude oil through that really important area. And right now that's not happening. We're going to take a quick break, just 2 minutes, and then we're going to go to someone who I think is, whether he likes it or not, going to be more of a repeat customer here on Philadelphia Live. We're going to talk to Scott Grayson about everything sports related when we come back in 2 minutes. I hope. On. Welcome back in, everybody. I'm Jen Frederick. This is Philadelphia Live. And one of the things we talk about each and every day is sports. So we have a guy who's been hanging around this TV station for about 7 years, and now he's been given a big promotion. Scott Grayson is now our sports director. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jen. Good to be with you.
You as well. So wait, are you my boss now? Are you one of my bosses? Like, do you go to managers meetings and stuff?
I do, yes. But
Okay.
I don't, yeah. Yes, how about that, right?
Well, put in a good word for me, please.
I will do my best.
All right, let's start with the Eagles. I think yesterday around dinner time, maybe a little bit later, 7 p.m., people are looking at their phones and they're like, okay, we do have a corner. Okay, we do have a tight end. There were some moves made that made people happy last night, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the tight end situation is strictly for depth. They brought Grant Calcaterra back. You'll recognize that name. He's not going to be the starting tight end. He'll continue to be a backup. They got Johnny Mund, a guy who came over here from the Jaguars. He's been a 10-year player, probably more of a blocking tight end. So, again, another depth piece. But they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do there. And Dallas Goedert, his contract expired last night at midnight. So it looks like they're not bringing him back, and it's going to be going another route. Goddard had a great year last year. So I think when you look at that, there's still some answers to be had there. You mentioned corner. They're bringing in Reek Willen from the Seattle Seahawks. He won a Super Bowl there last year. Should be a great complementary piece on the other side from Quinyon Mitchell, and that'll allow Cooper DeJean to stay at the nickel spot where he's been so good. So, yeah, that you really like to see there. Obviously, still a lot of work for Howie Roseman to do at this point.
So weren't we at some point, certainly in 2017, I don't know, in recent years, weren't we like a team that was known as the tight end heavy team? You talk about a blocking tight end. We obviously know Zach Ertz was skilled in so many ways, but his coach at that time came from a blocking tight end, Justin Peele kind of a way, right? And so I am surprised. We had Brent Selleck, we had Dallas, we had Zach. Am I right? We were very tight end heavy, and now it's lean. Do you know who they're looking for or what the offense in that area might look like soon?
Well, they have a couple options. They can either go through free agency, and I think the leading candidate, if they go through free agency, is David Njoku, who he's kind of a hybrid tight end. He's had a lot of success catching the ball in the past as well as blocking. But then there's also the opportunity to go through the draft. The only thing is, when you go through the draft, you never know how it's going to run, right? You never know who's going to take who when, and we all know Howie Roseman can move up if he needs to get a guy if they're targeting one. I think there are a couple of good potential rookie tight ends out there, and that's where, of course, they got Dallas Goedert. He came to the Eagles via the draft. They drafted him. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. And whether that's something they address potentially as early as today. I think they're probably leaning more likely to go through free agency to bring in a tight end as opposed to I'm waiting until the draft, but that remains an option. So if Howie doesn't like the way things are going or how much money it would take to do it, then I think they will, look to the draft and table that issue of finding a tight end until later.
Okay, the other thing was Max Crosby. I think a couple weeks ago, right, we were like disappointed that the Ravens got him. Now they don't have him. He had to go back to where he came from, Las Vegas. So what's going to happen there? I mean, no one believes that he's going to stay with the Raiders, but is this a real opportunity for the Eagles to get him at a lower price?
I think this has Howie Roseman written all over. I think Howie Roseman probably started jumping up for joy last night at his house when he heard about this because, you get a guy who the Ravens basically said, I think they had buyer's remorse ultimately, and I'm curious to see what the fallout will be from this because I think they didn't want to end up giving up 2 first-round picks and just said, okay, well, we can just fail him on the physical, and that's what happened. Technically, he failed the physical with the Ravens, so he goes back to the Raiders. The Ravens get their draft picks back. Everybody around the league then looks at this and says, oh, well, he's got a failed physical. Maybe the asking price will drop just a little bit. And if it does, which I think it probably has, I think Howie Roseman is looking at this and calling the Raiders. We've seen some reports that supposedly the Lions and the Raiders, the Lions and the Eagles are in on trying to get Max Crosby. I think he'd be a great addition here. I think the Eagles have shown when there's players who have a little bit of an injury history, they do their due diligence, they do their homework, and the Eagles doctors are really good at giving good reports to Howie Roseman about that. And if they say, hey, I think he's going to be fine from the injury he had last year. Then I fully expect Howie Roseman to try to go in to see what it would take and whether or not that price gets a little too high for Howie. They won't give him 2 first-round picks. They will not give up 2 first-round picks to the Raiders for him, but they might look at other ways and try dropping that price and see if the Raiders are willing to come down to that just to get him gone. Because the complicated part of this, Jen, is that the Raiders have since thought they had moved him, and they've gone and spent some other money elsewhere. And now if he's back on their ledger, so to speak, they're going to have to navigate that with the salary cap as well. So they're going to be, I think they're definitely looking to move him, and it'll be interesting to see if the Eagles are in on that.
So let's switch over to the World Baseball Classic. I was talking to you yesterday. I'm like, I kind of dipped my toe into sports, but I don't know everything about sports. Caitlin, one of the producers, was trying to explain like the NFL playoff structure of how it is that we get, like he has to win by so many points, but pause. Then I'm on the Twitter, we now know as X. Is it true that I knew as much about how they're going to advance as the manager of the team? I read that he doesn't even know how they advance. Is that true?
This is very troubling to, I think, any Team USA fan out there, right? Your manager essentially thought they had already clinched a spot in the quarterfinals, right? So moved out of pool play. That was not the case. And anybody who is, and I'm this, if you're a travel baseball or travel sports parent, you understand, look, you're going to get some tiebreakers in pool play, and then there's things that go into it. Every tournament may have different rules as to how you get on. And with this, that's the case. So usually you go, okay, well, if we lose to Italy, and then Italy would have the chance to potentially lose to Mexico, you could have a 3-way tie with 3 3-1 teams. And that's where we potentially stand now. Somebody in that mix is going to get left out. So the USA had not automatically clinched the spot. There's going to be a lot of criticism here, heavy criticism of manager Mark DeRosa if they do not advance, because from what we've heard, there are reports the guys were hanging out in the clubhouse really late into the night after they beat Mexico. I think partly because they had thought that they were good and kind of going to take their foot off the gas a little bit going into that game last night. And it was really interesting because in the 8th inning last night, Mark DeRosa was getting Clayton Kershaw up to pitch. And obviously an older pitcher, a great pitcher in his own right. But then when they realized the runs against matter here last night, suddenly Mason Miller got up. And it was like, no, we need to put this down and not let any more runs come in. So it sets up a real interesting scenario today. So I'm going to try to make it easy on you, Jen. If Italy wins, the U.S. will advance. If Mexico scores 5 runs, then no matter what happens, the USA will advance. So that's what you're looking for tonight. And the interesting tie-in to all that is Aaron Nola is expected to be the starting pitcher for Italy tonight. So if you're rooting for Nola, because if Italy wins, that's the easiest path. No matter how many runs are scored, you don't have to worry about doing any math. If Italy wins tonight, the U.S. and Italy go. So, hey, Aaron Nola, pitch well.
I like it. All right. Congratulations on the upgrade.
Thank you.
Promotion. And with that comes an opportunity for you to hang out with us whenever you want.
I'll be here. You just tap on me and knock on my door.
Will do. All right, Scott Grayson, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight. All right, we got to go to Chris O'Connell. Not now, but right now, because he's hanging out with a robot. That's what I've been told. This is what comes in my ear. That's why it comes out of my mouth. What the heck is going on, Chris?
Good afternoon, Jen. Yes, Philly is kind of moving into the tech world like other cities today or yesterday. Uber Eats unveiled one of these things. If you order a taco, a cheesesteak, a cheeseburger in Center City, Philadelphia, this thing may be delivering your next meal. Uber Eats unveiled this yesterday with a company called Avride. They're in other cities have actually used these before. But what will it do? You order from Uber Eats from 12 restaurants in the city now for a trial. You can have your meal delivered by one of these. We followed a couple of these around today for deliveries. They're actually fairly fast. You get an order. It'll go to the restaurant. The restaurant puts in a code. It opens up this little door here. They put the meal in, and then it goes to you and it is delivered to you. You have a code on your phone. Once it comes to you, you have the code, it opens up, and you get your meal. So, big questions, though. How do you think this will do in the city of Philadelphia? Remember quite a few years back, there was a robot that was traveling the country, never made it out of the city limits of Philadelphia. Will these autonomous deliveries work? Well, we spoke with a restaurant owner, and they said they have to move with the times. They'd rather see people face to face, but if it gets their food out there, they're happy to do it. Again, I've talked to a couple of people who have used these before. Not a real big deal. Probably the biggest end user thing you'll find, Jen, is if one of these delivers your food, you don't have to tip it. So that's a big thing. You can actually.
There's a JP, there's a Caitlin, there's Keith behind me. You are cheap. And every one of us were like, do we have to tip it?
No, you do not have to tip it. And where these are actually helping, Jen, is weather we've had today, actually. There was some rain about an hour ago, and some of these restaurant owners say as soon as it starts raining, they see their delivery drivers. There's no one wants to deliver. These things will. They'll go in the rain. They'll go in the snow. They'll go from 10 in the morning until 10 at night. Right now, it is just Center City between, just say, like 18th Street to Old City, Locust Street to, I think, Arch. So it's kind of Center City, Chinatown, Old City area. Only 12 restaurants right now participating, but I'm sure more will be on the way. So maybe next time you order your food, a robot will be delivering.
No,
pretty cool.
No. It's the next time Brody Frederick, Penn State student, orders his food on my credit card. I have never, this is a true statement actually, I've never independently, just for myself, gone on my phone and ordered food to my, never. Why? I can cook, I can make avocado toast. Never. But the dum-dums that live at my house are spending Kardashian-sized money doing just that when there is food in my house, because I leave the house, drive the car, I do Instacart once or twice a week here and there for groceries, but never independently for myself. But to see the robot, I might.
Yeah, I know, Jen. I got two 16-year-old daughters. I get the same bills. The crumble cookies.
Yes.
The Dunkin', the Starbucks.
Yes.
Yes.
Taco
now you can tell them a robot will deliver your food. They're going to be on this app in no time.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for hunting down the robot, and thanks for being nice. Like, protect the robot at all costs. Do not let harm happen.
Do not touch the robot. It's not moving right now. Must not have any orders.
All right. I love it. All right. Have a great rest of your day, bud. Seriously, I've never ordered my own thing. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back. If that wasn't cool, we got even better stuff in 2 minutes. I promise. welcome in everybody. We do have a couple of Jeffrey Epstein related items that are happening for you. So in the little box, okay, what that is we're calling it hallway cam. It's literally the hallway where there's a closed door meeting where there is some testimony being held. Basically, investigators are questioning Jeffrey Epstein's basically money guy about how Jeffrey Epstein funded his lavish lifestyle. They're trying to figure out how they structured the bank accounts for cash withdrawals. They're trying to figure out how they managed what's being called a web of shell companies. As you can only imagine, the gentleman that is being questioned by the House Oversight Committee is saying, you know what, I don't really know how any of this worked. Being deposed is Richard Kahn. And again, he was one of the guys that worked with Jeffrey Epstein on financial deals. A real focal point of all of this for the committee is why the Department of Justice and the FBI reportedly never asked Kahn during any previous investigations about what was going on. Is that a gentleman that's going to talk? Again, this is a closed door House Oversight Committee meeting where they're getting testimony from Richard Kahn, who is one of the people who helped Jeffrey Epstein with his finances. He was basically an estate manager. He overseed some of the distribution of Epstein's remaining fortune. You know, when he died, he was worth millions. At some point, they said maybe $127 million. So they're trying to figure out exactly what this guy, what this finance guy, Richard Kahn, knew about Epstein's crimes, what he knew about victims' lawsuits. Did he play any role in, you know, the operations in terms of getting money to people when they complained about things like 3, quote, sham marriages that were basically done for immigration status for victims? So all of that, again, that's what the hallway is that you're looking at, and we're kind of like waiting to see if they'll come out and talk because, again, House Oversight Committee is conducting a closed-door deposition today. Okay, at the same time, you're looking at London, England. Why are you looking at London, England? Well, basically what we're learning is that there's some documents that show the United Kingdom Prime Minister was warned of a, quote, reputational risk to appointing the U.S. Ambassador Peter Mandelson as an ambassador. The Prime Minister, the British Prime Minister, is being asked why he appointed this guy despite being aware that this ambassador had personal ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And you know, what's happening over there with the British government is they have published a whole bunch of documents, all of them relating to the appointment of Peter Mandelson as an ambassador to the U.S. There's a police investigation. They're trying to figure out if there's misconduct, that relates to the ex-diplomats' ties to Jeffrey Epstein. How many pages did they release? 147. And lawmakers are saying, this will definitely force the Prime Minister to disclose thousands of files that he has about the decision he made to appoint this guy to a key diplomatic post at the beginning of President Trump's second term, despite knowing about the friendship, despite knowing that there was something there that could have maybe changed the decision about the appointment. So those are two different things that we're watching, that we're seeing. Again, that hallway cam, kind of waiting to see if anyone's going to come out of there. At the same time, we were listening in as the U.S. Senate is talking about this partial government shutdown. It has everything to do with the fact that the Democrats do not want to fund ICE operations within the Department of Homeland Security. It affects all of us civilians because we want to get on a plane, and the TSA is part of that partial government shutdown. We're going to listen in.
Getting paid because my Democratic colleagues are blocking their pay, and they've been very clear on this. And if I can reiterate what my colleague just said my Democratic colleagues do not want to fund ICE. The concern from so many Republicans are they want to be able to pass, Democrats want to be able to pass a bill right now that funds Homeland Security except for ICE, except for CBP. That means they want to cut off funding and basically drain it out and have folks go to their workplace every day but not get paid week after week, so eventually they quit. And no longer can ICE function, and no longer can Border Patrol function. That's the concern here, is that you're right. As has been stated on this floor just 2 minutes ago, they don't want to fund those entities at all. So what it seems like my Democratic colleagues are pursuing is a way to be able to fund everything else and to be able to starve out what they don't want. They don't want border protection. They don't want ICE removal. But can I remind my colleagues and anyone else who wants to hear it, what they're blocking funding for currently right now is more than just deportations. Even what they're proposing right now to say we'll fund everything else but ICE, but CBP. They're blocking out Homeland Security investigators. That is federal law enforcement that goes after drug cartels, weapons smuggling, money laundering, soliciting. That is the HSI, are the folks that are actually going after child exploitation. These are the federal agents that go after human trafficking networks. These are the individuals that actually enforce the counterproliferation and sanctions enforcement. These are the folks that investigate the cyber crimes. So they're saying we're defunding ICE. They're also defunding the investigations for human trafficking, for drug smuggling, for cyber crimes, workforce investigations. They're also blocking out the customs professionals that are actually at our ports of entry, handling our produce, keeping different diseases from coming into our country based on soil samples and agricultural pieces that are coming in. That's what they're also defunding. And they're saying to Republicans, just give up. Just don't fund our customs professionals. Just don't fund the ICE professionals. Just don't fund them. We don't plan on ever paying them, so they'll quit. I think that's a terrible idea. Because help me understand the moment when we get back together and then my Democratic colleagues suddenly say, we've changed our mind, now we want to fund ICE. It's not going to happen. I saw during the Biden administration, up close and personal, they do not want to fund border protection. I saw it. The American people do want to have sane border policy. We do want to have sane enforcement. Now, just to do a little history in here, 13 days ago, the White House sent over a proposal, and it wasn't just a secret. The President of the United States posted on social media and made it very clear.
All right, we're going to go to a quick break, come back in 2 minutes and wrap it up. Stick around.